All right, let's jump right in. We all think about getting older, but what if aging isn't just something that happens to us? What if it's a series of biological events we could actually, well, influence? Today, we're going to crack open the science behind a fascinating molecule called NMN and how it's linked to the very fuel that powers every single one of our cells. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds like a pretty wild question, right? But believe it or not, the scientific community is taking it very seriously. So seriously, in fact, that the World Health Organization's latest disease classification, the ICD-11, now actually has a code for aging-related conditions. This is a huge shift in thinking. It frames senescence, that's the scientific term for cellular aging, as something we could one day target with actual medical treatments.
So, to even understand how we might do that, we need to go right to the source. We're going to take a look at the tiny engines running inside our cells, see how they make energy, and figure out why that engine just seems to lose its horsepower as we get older.
Okay, meet the star of our show, NAD+. That stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. Just think of it as the high-octane fuel for our cellular engines. It's a coenzyme that is absolutely critical for our mitochondria, the power plants of our cells, to turn the food we eat into the energy that keeps the whole system running. We're talking everything from your heart beating to your brain firing off thoughts.
And here's the problem, the real crux of the issue. As we age, our bodies just get, less efficient at making this crucial NAD+ fuel. And a whole bunch of studies show that this decline is directly linked to a drop in how well our organs and tissues work. It's pretty simple, really. The power plants start running low on fuel, and that contributes to a lot of what we associate with getting older. So this leads to a really obvious question, doesn't it? Can we just top up the tank? Well, that's exactly what scientists are trying to figure out, and they're exploring a potential solution in a molecule called nicotinamide mononucleotide, or just NMN.
NMN is what's called a precursor to NAD+. Basically, it's one of the main building blocks, one of the key raw ingredients that our body uses to make that essential cellular fuel. The theory here is wonderfully simple. If we give our body more of the raw materials, maybe it can produce more of the final product, more NAD+.
And NMN isn't some strange chemical cooked up in a lab. As you can see right here, it's a totally natural substance. We find it in foods we eat all the time, like edamame, broccoli, avocados. But you probably also notice that the amounts are, pretty small. You'd have to eat an absolutely massive amount of broccoli to get what researchers think is a therapeutic dose. And that's exactly why they're so focused on studying NMN as a supplement.
But here's where the story gets really interesting. It's not as simple as just popping an NMN pill and calling it a day. Nope. The real challenge, the central problem scientists have been trying to solve, is figuring out how to get that NMN from your stomach into your cells, where it can actually do its job. This is what's known as the delivery problem. So there are two competing ideas on how to do this. The first is the standard, kind of indirect way. The NMN molecule, it turns out, is a bit too big to get into the cell by itself. So first, it has to convert into a smaller molecule, an R, just to get through the door. And that whole process takes time and burns energy. The second idea is a direct route. It uses something called a liposome. Think of it like a tiny protective fat bubble that wraps around the NMN and smuggles it straight through the cell wall. It's like an armored car for molecules.
And this diagram just illustrates the difference perfectly. Look at the top right. That's the standard pathway. NMN shows up, has to change into an R, get through a transporter, then change back into NMN on the inside. That's a lot of steps, right? Now look to the left. That's the liposome. It just fuses with the cell membrane and boom, drops its NMN cargo right inside. So much more direct.
Okay, so theory is one thing, but proof is something else entirely. To really figure out if this fancy delivery method actually mattered, a team of researchers in Japan set up a direct, head-to-head clinical trial to put these two methods to the test. And this was a really well-designed study. It was double-blind, which is super important. It means neither the people in the study nor the scientists knew who was getting what, which helps avoid bias. They took 15 healthy guys over 40 and split them into 3 groups. One got a placebo, one got the standard NMN, and the third got the liposomal armored car version. Everyone took the same dose for 4 straight weeks. The researchers were measuring everyone's blood NAD+ levels at really specific times. First, they got a baseline before anyone took anything. Then they checked an hour later to see if it was being absorbed quickly. But the big one, the one everyone was waiting for, was the measurement after 4 full weeks of taking it every day. They even checked a month after they stopped just to see if the effects would stick around. So after all that careful setup, it was time for the big reveal. Did the special delivery system really make a difference, or was it all just clever marketing? Well, the results came in, and they were surprisingly clear. This was the whole point of the study, right? Did the delivery method actually matter? Would the blood test show a real, significant change, and if so, for who? And here it is. This is the money slide. After 4 weeks, look at this. The placebo group, their NAD+ levels were basically flat, right where they started. The group taking the standard, non-liposomal NMN, they saw a decent bump, for sure. But the liposomal NMN group, whoa, they shot way up. That difference isn't just something you can see on a chart. It was statistically significant.
Let's just track the journey for that winning group. You can see their NAD+ levels were just cruising along at the start, but after those 4 weeks of supplementation, they hit that massive peak. This chart shows a powerful, undeniable boost in the very cellular fuel they were trying to increase. And if you need to hear it from the horse's mouth, here's a quote directly from the researchers' paper. They said, "Yes, a significant difference was confirmed between the placebo and the liposomal NMN group." But then, they dropped this little bombshell. However, a significant difference was not confirmed between the placebo group and the non-liposomal NMN group. Wow. So in this specific trial, the delivery system wasn't just a small factor, it was everything. Okay, so this one study had a very clear winner. But let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. What's the broader promise of boosting NAD+ with NMN? And what are the problems or hurdles that are still in the way? The potential here is honestly incredibly exciting. Researchers are looking into how boosting NAD+ could affect a huge range of age-related issues. We're talking about everything from improving how our bodies handle sugar and fat to supporting brain health in conditions like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, and even protecting our blood vessels and our kidneys. The list of potential benefits is long, and it's full of promise. But, and this is a really important but, we have to stay realistic. This is still an evolving field of science. Very often we see these amazing results in mouse studies that turn out to be a bit less dramatic in humans. We're still trying to nail down the most effective doses, and right now these supplements can be pretty pricey. And of course, while short-term safety looks good, we always need more long-term data. But the biggest takeaway is this: NMN is not a magic bullet. A healthy lifestyle is and always will be the foundation of good health. And all of this leaves us with one final fascinating question. As the science continues to improve and as these delivery methods get more and more efficient, are we looking at a future where topping up our cellular fuel becomes a standard part of how we stay healthy as we age? You know, only time and a lot more research is going to tell.